The rain was coming down hard that Tuesday evening when David first noticed the boy. He had seen him before, of course. The kid showed up almost every night around 7, standing across the street from the restaurant, just watching, never asking for anything, never bothering the customers. Just standing there with his hands shoved deep in his pockets, looking through the big glass windows. David owned the Golden Harvest, one of the most expensive restaurants in the downtown area. He had worked 15 years to build this place from nothing. Now, at 42, he was worth more money than he ever dreamed possible when he was growing up poor himself. But something about this kid bothered him. Not bothered in a bad way. It was more like a feeling he couldn't shake. Tonight was different, though. The rain was really coming down, and the boy didn't have an umbrella or even a proper jacket. He was soaked through, his thin shirt sticking to his small frame. David watched from behind the bar as the kid stood there, shivering but still not moving from his spot. Water dripped from his dark hair down his face, but he kept watching the people inside eating their warm meals. "That's it," David said to himself. He grabbed his coat and walked outside. The boy saw him coming and immediately started backing away. His eyes were wide with fear, like he thought he was in trouble. "Hey, wait up," David called out, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're getting soaked out here." The boy stopped but kept his distance. He looked to be about 12 years old, maybe 13. His clothes were clean but old, and his shoes had holes that let the rain in. Despite being wet and cold, he stood straight and looked David right in the eye. "I wasn't doing anything wrong, sir," the boy said quietly. "I was just walking by." David smiled. "I know you weren't doing anything wrong, but you've been walking by this same spot every night for 2 weeks. In this rain, you're going to catch pneumonia." The boy looked surprised that David had noticed him. His cheeks turned red, and he looked down at his wet shoes. "Look," David continued, "I'm about to have dinner myself. I hate eating alone. Would you like to join me, just until this rain stops?" The boy's head shot up, his eyes wide with surprise. I don't have any money, sir." "Did I ask for money?" David said gently. "Come on, you're shivering. At least come inside and get warm." For a moment, the boy just stared at him. David could see him thinking it over, probably trying to figure out if this was some kind of trick. Finally, the boy nodded slowly. "Okay, but just until the rain stops." David led him inside, past the fancy tables with their white tablecloths and expensive wine glasses. The boy's eyes went wide as he looked around. He had probably never been in a place this nice before. David noticed how the kid was careful not to drip water on anything and how he walked softly, like he was afraid of making noise. They sat at a small table in the back corner, away from the other customers. David signaled to his waiter, Tom, who had been working at the restaurant for 3 years. "Tom, could you bring us 2 of tonight's specials and maybe some hot chocolate for my friend here?" Tom nodded and walked away. The boy watched him go, then turned back to David. "Sir, I really can't pay for this." "What's your name?" David asked instead of answering. "Danny." "Well, Danny, I'm David. I own this place. And when I invite someone to dinner, it's my treat. Now, tell me about yourself. Do you go to school around here?" Danny nodded. "Yes, sir. Jefferson Middle School. It's about 6 blocks from here." "That's a good school. What's your favorite subject?" "Math," Danny said without hesitation. "I like how numbers work. They always make sense, you know? Like 2 plus 2 is always 4. It never changes." David smiled. He had liked math for the same reason when he was a kid. Numbers didn't lie or let you down. Tom brought their food, and David watched as Danny's eyes went wide again. The plate was piled high with grilled chicken, rice, and vegetables. There was more food on that one plate than Danny probably saw in a week. "Go ahead," David encouraged. "Eat up." Danny picked up his fork carefully and took a small bite. His eyes closed for a moment, like he was trying to make the taste last as long as possible. Then he ate slowly, cutting each piece small and chewing carefully. He didn't wolf it down like a hungry kid might. He had manners. This is really good, Danny said quietly. Thank you. You're welcome. So, Danny, do you live around here? Danny's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He set it down and looked uncomfortable. It's okay, David said quickly. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. Danny was quiet for a moment, then spoke in a voice so soft David had to lean forward to hear him. My mom and me, we stay at the shelter on Oak Street. She works 3 jobs, but it's still hard sometimes. David felt his heart sink. He had grown up poor, but at least he'd had a home. What kind of jobs does your mom do? She cleans offices at night and she works at the grocery store on weekends, and sometimes she does laundry for people. Danny's voice was proud when he talked about his mother. She works really hard. She says we're going to have our own place again soon. I'm sure you will, David said. She sounds like a strong woman. She is. She's the strongest person I know. Danny took another careful bite. She taught me that we don't ask for handouts. She says we earn what we get. David understood now why the boy had never come inside before, why he just stood outside watching. His mother had taught him pride even when they had nothing. That's good advice, David said. Your mom sounds very wise. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. David watched as Danny finished every single bite on his plate, even cleaning up the rice grains with his fork. When Tom came by to ask if they wanted dessert, Danny quickly shook his head. I'm full, thank you. But David saw him looking longingly at the dessert cart as it rolled by. How about we split something? David suggested. I've got a sweet tooth, but I can never finish a whole dessert by myself. Danny looked uncertain. Are you sure? Positive. What looks good to you? Danny pointed to a slice of chocolate cake. That one looks amazing. David ordered it, and when it came, he made sure Danny got the bigger half. The boy's face lit up with the first bite, and David felt something warm spread through his chest. When was the last time he had made someone this happy with something so simple? By the time they finished, the rain had stopped. Danny looked out the window and stood up. I should go. My mom will be worried if I'm not back before she gets home. From work. Of course, David said. It was nice meeting you, Danny. Danny hesitated at the door. Mr. David, thank you for dinner. And for treating me like I belonged here. Before David could respond, the boy was gone, disappearing into the night. David stood at the window, watching until Danny was out of sight. He had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time he saw the boy. Danny showed up the next night at exactly 7 o'clock. David was expecting him this time, watching from the front window as the boy took his usual spot across the street. But tonight, Danny wasn't just standing there. He was looking right at the restaurant. And when he saw David in the window, he gave a small wave. David smiled and waved back. Then he walked outside. Evening, Danny. How was school today? Good, sir. We had a math test. I think I did okay. Danny shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Mr. David, about last night. I wanted to thank you again. That was the best meal I've had in a long time. You're very welcome. Are you hungry tonight? Danny looked down at his shoes. I don't want to be a bother. You're not a bother. Come on. They went inside and sat at the same table as before. This time, Danny seemed a little more relaxed. He didn't look around with wide eyes like everything was new. Instead, he sat up straight and put his napkin on his lap without being told. You know, David said as they waited for their food, I could use some help around here in the evenings. Nothing too heavy, just organizing some boxes in the back room, maybe helping Tom clean tables after the rush. Would you be interested? Danny's eyes lit up. You mean like a job? Well, not exactly a job, you're too young for that. But I could pay you a little something, and you could eat dinner here while you work. What do you think? I'd like that, Danny said quickly. Then he paused. But I'd have to ask my mom first, she likes to know where I am. Of course, that's smart. What time does she get home from work? Around 10, usually. Sometimes later if she has to work late at the grocery store. David did some quick math in his head. That meant Danny was alone from the time school ended until 10 at night. No wonder. He spent his evenings wandering around downtown. Tell you what, David said. Why don't you bring her by this weekend? I'd like to meet her. I want her to know that you're safe here and that I'm not some stranger trying to take advantage. Danny nodded eagerly. She'd like that. She's always worried about me talking to people I don't know. Over the next 2 weeks, Danny became a regular fixture at the Golden Harvest. He would show up every evening around 7, do his homework at the back table, then help with small tasks around the restaurant. He was careful and thorough with everything he did. When David asked him to stack boxes, they were perfectly straight. When he helped wipe down tables, he made sure to get every spot. The other staff members quickly grew fond of him. Tom, the waiter, I started teaching him how to fold napkins properly. Rosa, the head cook, would always make sure there was an extra bread roll for him. Even the dishwashers, Carlos and Mike, would joke around with him during their breaks. But what impressed David most was Danny's attitude. The boy never acted like he was owed anything. He always said please and thank you. He never complained, even when David asked him to do boring tasks like organizing the supply closet. And he never took anything without asking first. One evening, about 3 weeks after they first met, Danny seemed different. He was quieter than usual, and David noticed he kept looking at the calendar on the wall. "Everything okay, buddy?" David asked as they sat down for dinner. Danny poked at his food with his fork. "Tomorrow is my mom's birthday." "That's nice. How old is she going to be?" 38. Danny sighed. "I wanted to get her something special, but..." He didn't finish the sentence, but David understood. "What kind of things does she like?" Danny's face brightened a little. "She loves flowers, and she used to cook all the time when we had our own kitchen. She's really good at it. She makes this amazing spaghetti sauce from scratch." His expression fell again. "But we can't cook. At the shelter, they have rules." David felt his heart break a little. Here was a kid who desperately wanted to do something nice for his mother, but he had no money and no way to make it happen. "You know what?" David said suddenly. "I have an idea." Danny looked up hopefully. "What if you brought your mom here for dinner tomorrow night for her birthday? I could have Rosa make something really special." Danny's eyes went wide. "Really? But that would cost so much money." "Don't worry about the money. It would be my treat. Think of it as a birthday present from me to her." For a moment, Danny just stared at him. Then his whole face lit up with the biggest smile David had ever seen. "She would love that," Danny said, his voice full of excitement. "She's never been to a fancy restaurant like this, never." "Great. What time should we expect you? Is 7 okay? She gets off work at 6 on Fridays. 7 is perfect. I'll have Rosa prepare something extra special." Danny could barely contain his excitement for the rest of the evening. He kept talking about how surprised his mom would be, how happy she would be to eat a meal she didn't have to cook herself. He even asked David what kind of clothes people usually wore to fancy restaurants because he wanted to make sure his mom felt comfortable. "She doesn't have to dress up," David assured him. "Just come as you are. The most important thing is that she feels welcome." The next day, David found himself more nervous than he had been in years. He spent the morning going over the menu with Rosa, making sure everything would be perfect. He had the staff polish the silverware extra carefully and picked out the best flowers for the table. "You're acting like the president is coming to dinner." Tom laughed as David rearranged the flowers for the 3rd time. "This is important," David said. "Danny's been looking forward to this all week." As 7 o'clock approached, David stationed himself by the front window, watching for Danny and his mother. He realized he was genuinely nervous about meeting this woman. Danny talked about her constantly, and it was clear she was the center of his world. David wanted to make a good impression. At exactly 7, he saw Danny walking down the street. But he wasn't alone. Next to him was a woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing a simple blue dress and carrying a small purse. Even from a distance, David could see that she walked with her shoulders back and her head held high. Danny was practically bouncing with excitement as they got closer to the restaurant. He kept looking up at his mother, pointing at the building and talking animatedly. The woman was smiling and nodding, but David could see something else in her posture. She looked nervous, maybe even a little uncomfortable. As they reached the front door, David took a deep breath and walked over to greet them. Danny burst through the door first. "Mr. David, this is my mom. Mom, this is Mr. David, the one I told you about." David extended his hand with a warm smile, ready to welcome the woman who had raised such an incredible kid. But as she looked up, and their eyes met, David felt the world stop spinning. The smile froze on his face. His hand dropped to his side. He stared in complete shock at the woman standing before him. He knew that face. He knew those eyes, but it was impossible. It couldn't be her. Not here. Not now. Not after all these years. The woman's face had gone pale, too. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Danny looked back and forth between them, confusion replacing his excitement. "Mom, Mr. David, is everything okay?" For what felt like forever, nobody moved. David stared at the woman in front of him, his mind racing. It was definitely her. Older, thinner, with lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, but it was absolutely her. Lisa, the woman who had once been his closest friend. His business partner. The person he had hurt more than anyone else in his life. Lisa's face had gone completely white. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she gripped her small purse tighter. But she didn't run. She didn't turn around and walk away. She just stood there, looking back at him with those same green eyes he remembered so well. Danny looked back and forth between them, his excitement fading into confusion and worry. "Mom, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Lisa blinked and seemed to snap back to reality. She looked down at her son and forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm fine, honey. Just surprised. This is a very nice place." David cleared his throat and tried to pull himself together. Whatever had happened between him and Lisa 15 years ago, this was Danny's special night. The boy had been looking forward to this dinner for days, and David wasn't going to ruin it for him. "Welcome to the Golden Harvest," David said, his voice only slightly shaky. "Danny has told me so much about you. Happy birthday." "Thank you," Lisa said quietly. Her voice was different than he remembered. Softer, maybe more careful. "Danny talks about you all the time. He says you've been very kind to him. He's a good kid. The best." David gestured toward the dining room. "Please, let me show you to your table." He led them through the restaurant, past the other diners who were enjoying their Friday night meals. David had chosen a table in a quiet corner, decorated with fresh flowers and lit by soft candlelight. He had wanted it to feel special for Danny's mother. Now he realized how strange this whole situation was. Danny slid into his chair, still looking, confused but trying to shake it off. "Mom, look at these flowers, and the napkins are folded like birds." Lisa sat down carefully like she was afraid she might break something. She looked around the restaurant with wide eyes, taking in the white tablecloths, the crystal glasses, the paintings on the walls. "This is beautiful," she said softly. "I've never been anywhere like this." "Danny said you used to love cooking," David said, sitting down across from them. He was trying to keep his voice normal, but it was hard. "I thought you might enjoy trying some of Rosa's specialties. She's been cooking for 20 years. "I did love cooking," Lisa said, glancing at Danny. "I still do, when I get the chance." Tom appeared beside their table with a warm smile. "Good evening. Danny, good to see you again, and you must be Danny's mother. Happy birthday." "Thank you," Lisa said, looking surprised and pleased that the waiter knew it was her birthday. "What would you like to drink?" Tom asked. "We have fresh lemonade, iced tea, or if you'd like something special for your birthday, we have some wonderful sparkling cider." Lisa looked uncertain. "Whatever's fine. I don't want to be any trouble." "The sparkling cider," David said. "And lemonade for Danny." As Tom walked away, an awkward silence settled over the table. Danny was looking back and forth between his mother and David, clearly sensing that something was wrong but not understanding what. "So," David said, trying to fill the silence, "Danny tells me you work 3 jobs. That must be exhausting." Lisa's jaw tightened slightly. We do what we have to do. Mom works really hard, Danny said proudly. She cleans offices at night and she works at Peterson's grocery store on weekends, and sometimes she does laundry for people who live in the nice apartments downtown. David felt sick to his stomach. Lisa had once owned half of a successful restaurant. She had been smart, creative, full of dreams and plans. Now she was working 3 minimum-wage jobs just to survive. That's very admirable, David said quietly. Lisa looked at him sharply, like she was trying to figure out if he was being sincere or making fun of her. Tom returned with their drinks and took their dinner orders. David had already spoken to Rosa about preparing something special, so he ordered for all of them. Grilled salmon with lemon butter sauce, roasted vegetables, and Lisa's favorite rice pilaf. He remembered that she had always loved salmon. Lisa noticed. How did you know I like salmon? David's heart skipped a beat. He had made a mistake. Danny mentioned it. He lied. Danny looked confused. I did? I don't remember saying that. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else, David said quickly. The conversation was getting more awkward by the minute. David kept catching Lisa staring at him like she was trying to figure out what game he was playing. Danny was picking up on the strange energy at the table and getting quieter. When their food arrived, Danny's eyes lit up again. Mom, look at this. It's like something from a magazine. Lisa smiled at her son's excitement, and for a moment, David saw a glimpse of the woman he used to know. The woman who would light up when she tried a new recipe or discovered a new ingredient at the market. She took a bite of the salmon and closed her eyes for a second. This is incredible. Rosa is amazing, David said. She's been with me for 8 years now. How long have you owned this place? Lisa asked. David hesitated. About 12 years. Lisa's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She was doing the math in her head. 12 years ago was just 3 years after everything had fallen apart between them. 3 years after she had lost everything and disappeared from his life. That's a long time, she said carefully. Yes, it is. Danny was happily eating his dinner, telling his mother about all the things he had learned working at the restaurant. He showed her how to fold napkins like Tom had taught him, and he told her about Rosa's special spice blend that made everything taste better. And Mr. David says maybe next week I can help organize the wine cellar, Danny said excitedly. He's going to teach me about different types of wine, not to drink them, just to learn about them. That's very educational, Lisa said, but David could hear the worry in her voice. She was wondering why a successful businessman was taking such an interest in her son. As they ate, David found himself studying Lisa's face. She looked tired, older than her 38 years. There were calluses on her hands from hard work, and her clothes, while clean and neat, were clearly old and worn. But she still had that same strength in her eyes, that same determination that had made him fall in love with her dreams all those years ago. Danny tells me you're very smart with numbers, Lisa said suddenly. I've always been good with math, David replied. He's helping me with my homework, Danny added. He knows all kinds of stuff about business and money. Lisa's expression grew cold. Does he? David could see that she was putting pieces together, remembering things about him that Danny's stories had triggered. He needed to change the subject fast. The dessert here is really good, he said. Danny, why don't you pick something for your mom's birthday? Danny perked up immediately. Can we get the chocolate cake, the one we shared that first night? Of course. As Tom brought the cake with a single candle on top, the whole staff gathered around to sing happy birthday. Lisa looked embarrassed but pleased. Danny was beaming with pride. But David noticed that Lisa's hands were shaking as she blew out the candle, and when she looked at him over the flickering flame, her eyes were full of questions that he wasn't ready to answer. After they finished the birthday cake, Danny excused himself to use the restroom. The moment he was out of sight, the fake smiles dropped from both David and Lisa's faces. The silence between them was heavy and uncomfortable. Lisa was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. David Parker. I can't believe it's you. David's stomach twisted at hearing his full name spoken in that tone. It was the same voice she had used the last time they spoke 15 years ago. Hurt, angry, and disappointed. Lisa, does he know? She interrupted, nodding toward the direction Danny had gone. Does he know who you are? What you did? No, David said quickly. He has no idea. Lisa, I never expected to see you again. When he first showed up here, I had no idea he was your son. Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course you didn't. Why would you? After all, I'm nobody, right? Just another poor person cleaning your building. David felt like he had been punched in the stomach. You clean my building? The Hartwell Tower, every Tuesday and Friday night. I've been cleaning your offices for 6 months. Lisa's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize the name on the door? Parker Industries? David had bought the Hartwell Tower 3 years ago. His main offices were on the top 2 floors, but he rarely stayed late enough to see the cleaning crews. He had no idea Lisa was working in his building. Lisa, if I had known. What? You would have fired me? Made sure I couldn't work there anymore? No, I would have. I don't know. I would have tried to help. Lisa's face hardened. I don't need your help. I've been taking care of myself and my son just fine without you. They could hear Danny's footsteps coming back from the restroom. Lisa quickly wiped her eyes and put on a smile, but David could see how much effort it took. Everything okay? Danny asked as he sat back down. Perfect, Lisa said, her voice bright and fake. I was just telling Mr. David how wonderful this dinner has been. Danny beamed. Isn't this place amazing? Mr. David has been so nice to me. He lets me work here after school and he's teaching me about running a business. David watched Lisa's face carefully. Her smile stayed in place, but he could see the pain in her eyes. That's very kind of him, she said. And he pays me too. Not a lot, but enough to save up for something special. I'm going to buy you a real birthday present next year, Mom. Something from a real store. Lisa's composure almost broke. She reached over and squeezed Danny's hand. You don't need to buy me anything, sweetheart. You're the best gift I could ever ask for. David felt terrible. Here was this kid, working for pocket change and thinking it was generous while David had millions in the bank. Money that had been built, at least partly, on the ruins of Lisa's dreams. Actually, David said carefully, I've been thinking about giving Danny a raise. He's been such a big help around here. Lisa's eyes flashed with anger. That's not necessary. We don't need charity. It's not charity. It's payment for work. Danny earns everything I give him. I work hard, Danny said proudly. Mr. David says I'm the best box stacker he's ever seen. Despite everything, Lisa smiled at her son's pride. I'm sure you are, baby. The tension at the table was getting thick again. David could see that Lisa was struggling to keep it together and Danny was starting to notice that something was wrong. Maybe we should head home, Lisa said, standing up. It's getting late and I have to work tomorrow. On Saturday? David asked. The grocery store. I work weekends there. Danny looked disappointed. Already? But we just got the cake. We can take the leftover cake with us, David said quickly. He signaled to Tom, who brought over a small box. As they prepared to leave, David walked them to the door. The restaurant was busy now, filled with couples on date nights and families celebrating. Lisa looked around one more time, taking it all in. Thank you for dinner, she said stiffly. It was very generous. You're welcome. Danny, I'll see you. Monday after school? Yes, sir, Danny said happily. Then he hugged David, which caught him completely off guard. Thank you for making my mom's birthday special. This was the best night ever. David hugged him back, his throat tight with emotion. You're welcome, buddy. As they walked away, David stood in the doorway watching them go. Lisa's back was straight and proud, but he could see the exhaustion in every step she took. Danny was skipping beside her, chattering about the dinner and how nice everyone had been. David went back inside but couldn't concentrate on anything. His mind kept going back to 15 years ago, to the restaurant they had started together. It had been small, nothing like the Golden Harvest, but they had been so excited about it. Lisa had put her entire inheritance from her grandmother into the business. She had trusted him completely, and he had let her down. Worse than that, he had destroyed her. The next few days were torture. Danny showed up Monday after school as usual, happy and eager to work. But David found it hard to look at the boy without thinking about Lisa, about what her life had become because of his mistakes. "Mr. David, are you okay?" Danny asked on Wednesday evening. "You seem sad." "I'm fine, buddy, just tired. Maybe you should take a vacation." "My mom says everyone needs a break sometimes." David smiled despite himself. "Your mom is very smart. She's the smartest person I know. And the strongest. She says we're going to have our own place again someday. Maybe even a little house with a yard. I hope you do." "Do you think that's possible? I mean, we don't have much money, but my mom says if we keep working hard and saving, anything is possible." David's heart broke a little more. Your mom is right. Anything is possible. But as the week went on, David realized he couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. Every time Danny talked about his mother, every time he mentioned their struggles or their dreams, David felt the weight of his guilt getting heavier. He had built his success on the foundation of Lisa's failure. The money he had salvaged from their failed partnership had been the seed money for everything that came after. His restaurants, his real estate investments, his comfortable life, all of it had started with what should have been Lisa's money too. On Friday evening, as Danny was getting ready to leave, he turned back to David with a worried expression. "Mr. David, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That night when my mom came for dinner, did you two know each other before? You both acted really weird." David felt his stomach drop. The kid was smarter than he had given him credit for. "Why, do you ask?" "I don't know. It just felt like you had met before. And my mom has been acting strange all week. She keeps asking me questions about you, like what we talk about and what kind of person you are." David didn't know what to say. He couldn't lie to Danny, but he couldn't tell him the truth either. Not yet. "People sometimes feel nervous in fancy restaurants," he said finally. Maybe that's all it was. Danny didn't look convinced, but he nodded. "Okay. I just want my mom to be happy. She deserves to be happy." As David watched Danny walk away into the night, he made a decision. He couldn't keep living with this secret. He couldn't keep taking Danny's gratitude and Lisa's silent suffering. It was time to face what he had done, and somehow he had to find a way to make it right. David spent the entire weekend thinking about what he needed to do. By Monday morning, he had made up his mind. He couldn't fix the past, but maybe he could do something about the future. He called the cleaning company that managed the Hartwell Tower and asked for Lisa's schedule. She would be working Tuesday night starting at 8. David planned to be there waiting for her. Tuesday evening, David sat in his office long after everyone else had gone home. At exactly 8 o'clock, he heard the elevator doors open down the hall. He took a deep breath and walked out to meet her. Lisa was pushing a cart full of cleaning supplies. When she saw him, she froze. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "We need to talk," David said quietly. "Please. Just give me 5 minutes." Lisa looked around the empty hallway, then back at him. "I'm working. I can't afford to lose this job." "You won't lose your job. I promise. Please, Lisa. We can't keep pretending this isn't happening." She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. 5 minutes. They went into David's office. Lisa stayed near the door, like she was ready to run if she needed to. David sat down behind his desk, then thought better of it and moved to one of the chairs in front. "I've been thinking about what to say to you for 15 years, he began. "But now that you're here, I don't know where to start." "How about with an apology?" Lisa said, her voice hard. "I'm sorry," David said immediately. "I'm so sorry for what I did to you. For what I cost you." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. "Do you even remember what happened? Or have you convinced yourself it wasn't that bad?" David winced. I remember everything. The expansion loan that I signed for without telling you. The way I used both our names as collateral. The night you found out and came to my apartment, crying, asking me how I could have risked everything we built together. Without even asking me, Lisa whispered. We were supposed to be partners. I know. I thought I was being smart. I thought the new location would make us rich. I was young and stupid and arrogant, and I destroyed everything. You destroyed my life, Lisa said, the tears finally falling. I lost my grandmother's money, I lost my credit, I lost my home. I had to move back in with my parents and listen to them tell me they always knew I was a dreamer who would fail. David felt sick. I tried to find you. After I got back on my feet, I tried to track you down. I wanted to pay you back to make things right. Too little, too late, Lisa said. By then I was pregnant and alone. Danny's father left when things got bad, said he didn't sign up to be poor. The weight of her words hit David like a physical blow. I didn't know you had a son. Why would you? You never cared enough to really look for me. A private investigator could have found me in a week. She was right, and David knew it. He had made a few phone calls, asked around a little, but he hadn't really tried. Part of him had been relieved when he couldn't find her easily. It meant he didn't have to face what he had done. You're right, he said. I was a coward. I took the easy way out. Lisa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't losing the money or the restaurant. It was losing my best friend. We grew up together, David. I trusted you more than anyone in the world. That hurt more than anything else she could have said. Because it was true. They had been best friends since they were teenagers. They had dreamed together, planned together, worked side by side to build something special, and he had thrown it all away. I know I can't undo what I did, David said, but I want to try to make it right. Let me help you. Lisa's face hardened again. I told you, I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's what I owe you. David stood up and went to his desk. He pulled out a folder he had prepared. I've been thinking about this all weekend. I want to offer you a partnership. What? I'm opening a new restaurant. Smaller than the Golden Harvest, more like the place we always talked about. I want you to run it. Full partnership, equal ownership. Lisa stared at him like he had lost his mind. You're joking. I'm completely serious. You know food, you know business, and you're the hardest worker I've ever met. If anyone can make it successful, it's you. David, I haven't worked in a restaurant in 15 years. I clean offices and stock shelves. But you still cook, right? Danny talks about your cooking all the time. Lisa looked confused. How would Danny know about... Oh. Her eyes widened as she realized what he was saying. You want me to work with you so you can keep Danny around? No, David said quickly. I mean, yes, I care about Danny. But this isn't about him, this is about you, about what you deserve. Lisa walked to the window and stared out at the city lights. Why now? Why after all these years? Because seeing you again made me realize something. I've been successful, yes, but I've never been happy. Not really. Because everything I built was tainted by what I did to you. I can't enjoy my success knowing it came at the cost of yours. And you think this will make us even? I don't think anything can make us even, but maybe it's a start. Lisa was quiet for a long time. David could see her thinking, weighing her options. Finally, she turned back to him. What about Danny? He doesn't know about any of this. He thinks you're just some nice man who gave him a job. We tell him the truth eventually, when he's ready. And if he hates you for what you did to his mother? David had thought about this too. Then I'll have to live with that. But at least he'll have a future. A real future, not just scraping by. Lisa was still hesitant. I don't know, David. After everything that happened, I understand if you can't forgive me, David said. I probably don't deserve forgiveness, but Danny deserves a chance, and so do you. Lisa looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. If I did this, there would have to be rules, legal documents, everything official. Of course. And I want my name on everything. Equal billing. Absolutely. And if you ever make a major decision without consulting me, I'm out, and I take half of everything with me. David smiled for the first time in days. Deal. Lisa didn't smile back, but some of the tension left her shoulders. I need time to think about it. Take all the time you need. As Lisa gathered her cleaning supplies to leave, she paused at the door. David? That night at your restaurant when Danny hugged you, I saw your face. You really do care about him. He's an amazing kid. You should be proud. I am. Lisa's voice was soft. He's the best thing I ever did. Then let me help you give him the life he deserves. Lisa nodded slowly. I'll think about it. After she left, David sat alone in his office, staring out at the city. For the first time in 15 years, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he might be able to sleep peacefully. 3 days later, Lisa called him. I want to see the space first, she said, and I want to meet with your lawyer. But David, I'm willing to try. David closed his eyes and smiled. Thank you, Lisa, you won't regret this. I better not, she said. But he could hear something in her voice that hadn't been there before. Hope. It would take time to rebuild trust. It would take even longer to heal the wounds from the past. But for the first time in years, David felt like he was moving toward something good instead of running away from his mistakes. And maybe if they were lucky, they could build something even better than what they had lost.